There's just something about the whole UFO mystery, isn't there? It keeps pulling you back.
That constant question, yeah.
Yeah.
What is actually going on?
Exactly. And today, we're diving deep into a book that really tries to tackle it seriously. Leslie Kean's UFOs. Generals, pilots, and government officials go on the record.
What stands out right away with Kean's work is how grounded it feels. It's not, chasing headlines.
Right.
It's a careful look based on what credible people have said and official documents. We're definitely not talking blurry photos here.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
We've looked over the book, and, well, our mission today is to pull out Kean's main argument, the evidence she gathered, what was it, like a decade of research?
Yeah, a solid decade.
And the conclusion she comes to. And it's key, like you said, she's a veteran investigative reporter.
That background is crucial. She knows how to find reliable sources, how to check facts.
Yeah.
That's so important in a field that can get, pretty speculative. And having someone like John Podesta, former White House chief of staff, write the foreword, that signals something too, right?
It does lend a certain weight straight off the bat. Okay, so let's get into the core of it. Kean's central thesis, the real foundation, it's that UFOs are actually real, physical things.
Right. She's not talking misidentifications or, psychological phenomena.
Well,
in the cases she highlights, the descriptions are specific. Structured objects, often metallic, sometimes luminous.
and they do things that just shouldn't be possible.
That's the crux of it, these extraordinary flight characteristics. Things that seem to defy known aerodynamics, defy our current tech.
Can you give an example? Like, what kind of things are we talking about?
Well, think silent gliding from massive craft, hovering dead still,
Okay.
then accelerating instantly to, incredible speeds, making complex turns that seem to just ignore gravity.
Wow. Makes you wonder what could possibly do that.
Exactly. And she really focuses on that physical reality, those capabilities. But just as important is her stance on what they are, or rather, what they might be.
This is the militant agnosticism thing.
Yeah. Why do you think she framed it that way?
Well, it seems smart. It separates the fact that something weird is flying around from the whole "is it aliens" debate, right?
Precisely. It sidesteps the immediate dismissal. She wants to talk about the evidence for unidentified flying objects, physical things doing extraordinary things, without getting bogged down in origin stories right away.
Keeps it focused. Rational.
It allows for that rational discussion based on testimony and data. She's trying to reclaim the word unidentified to mean just that we don't know yet, not just defaulting to extraterrestrial.
So it lowers the barrier for entry, almost. People can accept something unexplained is happening without signing up for Little Green Man immediately.
Exactly. And building from that base, real, physical, unconventional capabilities, Kean then argues that for her best cases, the normal explanations just don't cut it.
Right. The usual suspects. Misidentified planes, weather balloons, hoaxes.
For these specific incidents, she says those have been looked at and they just don't fit the facts.
Why not?
Because the weird characteristics remain unexplained, and you often have multiple witnesses or radar data backing it up, it pushes back against easy dismissals.
And she connects this to, real-world concerns too.
Yeah.
Safety, security.
Absolutely. She brings up documented near misses, aircraft, both commercial and military, having close calls with these UAPs.
Okay, that's worrying.
And also airspace violations. Objects showing up in restricted zones, sometimes near military sites. So it's not just a curiosity, it's framed as a potential risk.
Which naturally leads to her big call for a serious investigation.
A serious, unbiased scientific investigation. She argues the stigma has to go.
Right.
We need official recognition that this is worth studying properly. Maybe a dedicated agency, international cooperation, something to actually figure out what's going on.
Not just for curiosity, but for those safety and security reasons too.
Exactly. Move beyond dismissal, get to understanding.
Okay, now, you mentioned the evidence relies a lot on the people making these reports. Let's talk about these witnesses.
Yeah, that's absolutely key to her method. She puts huge weight on source reliability. These aren't just random people. No, she focuses on professionals. People whose jobs demand sharp observation, factual reporting. Think experienced pilots, high-ranking military officers, government officials.
So the argument is kind of like, listen to who's talking. These aren't folks prone to making stuff up.
That's exactly it. She leverages their professional credibility. Generals, FAA chiefs, pilots responsible for hundreds of lives or billion-dollar aircraft.
Right.
When they report seeing something inexplicable, doing impossible things, she argues you have to take it seriously. Especially since talking about this stuff can, carry professional risks.
And the list of witnesses in the book is pretty impressive, isn't it?
It really is. You've got Major General Wilfried de Brouwer from the Belgian Air Force, central to their big UFO wave. The Iranian Air Force major from that F-4 incident in Tehran. John Callahan, retired FAA investigations chief, talking about the JAL flight.
And wasn't there a governor? Fife Symington?
Yeah, former governor of Arizona, Fife Symington III. He spoke about his own sighting during the Phoenix Lights event.
Wow.
Plus Nick Pope, who ran the UK's UFO desk at the Ministry of Defense. Captain Julio Miguel Guerra from Portugal, who chased one in his jet.
Chase, okay.
And then collectively, those 5 U.S. Air Force generals she mentions, plus the French officials behind that Cometa report.
And even police officers, right, during the Belgian thing.
Loads of them. Belgian gendarmerie. It's a wide range of credible people.
It really makes you stop and think when you see a list like that.
It does. And a powerful thing in Kean's book is that many of these witnesses actually wrote their own chapters.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you get it directly from them. It adds this real immediacy, this sense of personal conviction. It's not just filtered through her.
So it's their testimony, but she also looked at documentation, hard data.
Correct. She talks about reviewing quite a bit of supporting material, government documents, maybe FOIA stuff, aviation reports, radar logs that seem to match the sighting.
Radar data?
Yeah, and photos, video, some of which has apparently had some scientific analysis done. So the idea is these aren't just stories. There's often some kind of official or technical trace left behind.
Okay, let's get into some of those big cases she uses to illustrate all this. The Tehran incident, 1976. You mentioned the F-4.
Yeah, it's a really striking case. An Iranian F-4 jet scrambles to check out this incredibly bright UFO over Tehran.
Okay.
As it gets close, the object does some wild maneuvers, and apparently a smaller bright object detaches from it.
Detaches.
Yeah. And then this is the kicker. The pilot tries to arm his weapons. Yeah. His weapons control panel goes dead. Communications, too? It seems like some kind of electromagnetic interference from the object.
Whoa.
A second F-4 is sent up, experiences similar electrical problems, and there were ground witnesses, plus a classified U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency report basically saying, yeah, this was weird and we can't explain it.
A U.S. intel agency saying that? That's significant. Hard to just brush off when military gear is failing.
Very hard.
What about that Belgian UFO wave, late 80s, early 90s? That involved the military too, right?
Oh, absolutely. 1989 to 1990, just widespread reports, hundreds, maybe thousands of people seeing these large, dark, triangular objects, silent movement.
Triangles?
Yeah, that was the common description. Seen by ordinary citizens, but also lots of police officers on duty.
Okay.
And they described them hovering silently, moving really slowly, then suddenly accelerating incredibly fast.
So what did the Belgian Air Force do?
They scrambled F-16s multiple times under Colonel de Brouwer, who we mentioned.
Did they catch him?
They got radar locks sometimes, but reportedly the objects just evaded the fighters easily. Superior performance, seemingly. There's a famous photo from that time, too, and de Brouwer's own chapter in the book details his conviction that it was something truly unexplained.
Modern jets scrambled, getting radar hits, but being outflown by objects seen by tons of people, including cops. That does add weight.
It really does.
Then there's the JAL cargo flight 1628 encounter over Alaska. That one seemed to have strong technical backup, too.
Yeah, 1986, a Japan Airlines 747 cargo plane had this long encounter, like 30 minutes, with multiple UFOs. One was described as gigantic.
Gigantic.
Yeah, and the crew saw them visually, but crucially, their presence was apparently confirmed by the plane's own weather radar and FAA ground radar.
Both.
And Kean includes the account from John Callahan, that retired FAA chief. He talks about the internal FAA response, the radar data they captured, data that seemed to back up what the pilots were seeing.
Experienced pilots, visual confirmation, and 2 independent radar sources. It's a tough one to explain away.
Very tough.
And Kean mentions other famous cases too, right? Not just these 3.
That's right, yeah. She brings in others to show the pattern. Rendlesham Forest in the UK.
The British Roswell, some call it.
Kind of. The Phoenix Lights, that huge sighting event. The Chicago O'Hare incident, where airport staff saw a disc over a gate.
I remember hearing about that one.
And that Portuguese Air Force pilot who got into a chase. Including these shows, it's not just 1 or 2 weird events. It's a recurring thing with credible reports.
So after laying out these cases, she starts pulling together the common threads, the characteristics that keep popping up. What are the main ones?
Well, looking at the reports she gathers, a few things stand out. Appearance-wise, they're usually described as structured. not just fuzzy lights.
Structured how?
Often metallic or luminous, sometimes both.
Yeah.
And specific shapes recur, like the triangle in Belgium or gigantic craft, like in the JAL case.
And how they move is obviously a huge factor.
Oh, definitely. That's maybe the most baffling part. The flight capabilities seem to challenge physics as we know it. Extreme speed and acceleration, like appearing to go from 0 to incredible speeds instantly.
Inertia. What inertia?
Exactly. And silent operation, even for really large objects. Plus, maneuverability that seems impossible, sharp right-angle turns, sudden stops, hovering perfectly still, shooting straight up or down with no visible propulsion.
That Portuguese pilot being circled.
Yeah, that story really emphasizes the agility they seem to possess, outmaneuvering a military jet.
And it's not just seeing them or tracking them, right? Sometimes they interact.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. You've got radar detection, military and civilian. That's a physical interaction, electronically speaking.
Okay.
Photographic evidence sometimes, which can be analyzed. And then the electromagnetic effects, like in Tehran, affecting aircraft systems. So yeah, not just passive sightings.
And the fact that these traits, structured shapes, silence, crazy maneuvers, EM effects, keep getting reported independently. That strengthens her argument, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That consistency across different times, places, and witnesses is a core part of her case. It suggests people are observing something real with shared characteristics, not just making random errors, something that doesn't fit known explanations.
So given all that, Kean then makes the case against conventional explanations for these incidents. What's her main point there?
Her argument is pretty straightforward. For these high-quality cases, the ones with credible witnesses and often technical data, the standard explanations just don't hold water.
They've been looked at and dismissed.
Essentially, yes. These specific cases have resisted debunking, despite scrutiny. She argues they remain genuinely unexplained by conventional means.
And she's kind of critical of how official explanations sometimes work.
Yes. She implies that official debunking sometimes ignores crucial evidence or offers explanations that just don't fit the facts reported by witnesses. She even uses terms like absurd cover-up stories.
Strong words.
Yeah. She points to the Belgian investigation as an example where authorities did take it seriously but still couldn't find a conventional answer.
So it feels like she's trying to flip the script a bit.
Yeah.
Put the burden of proof on the skeptics for these specific cases.
I think that's a fair way to put it. She's laying out the data and saying, okay, if this isn't an unidentified object with advanced tech, what is it? Show me the evidence for your conventional explanation that fits all these facts.
Right.
The central question she leaves hanging is, what are these things? Well-documented, technologically sophisticated, and still unidentified.
Let's shift to how Kean views the official response, especially from governments and the military, particularly the U.S. She seems pretty critical.
Oh, definitely. She presents a critical view of the U.S. response over the decades. She describes what she sees as a pattern.
A pattern of what?
Misinformation, debunking credible reports, a general culture of secrecy.
Yep.
She argues this led to neglect, avoiding any serious official investigation, and importantly, fostering ridicule.
Making it hard for credible people to report things.
Exactly. Discouraging pilots, military personnel, officials from coming forward because they fear being laughed at or damaging their careers.
And she contrasts this American approach with how other countries have handled it.
Yes, she highlights several international examples. France, with its Cometa report, that big study by high-level officials.
Right.
Belgium, which had that official investigation during the UFO wave. The UK, where Nick Pope used to work on this within the Ministry of Defense. And various South American countries that have been more open.
So her point is that other countries have taken it more seriously, at least sometimes.
Yes. That they've sometimes acknowledged the phenomenon, set up official bodies, been a bit more transparent. For Kean, these examples show that a different, more open approach is possible. It doesn't have to be automatic denial and secrecy.
And that fuels her call for the U.S. to change tack.
Absolutely. She makes a strong case for the U.S. to, well, stop the alleged denial and secrecy, to set up a transparent, well-funded agency to investigate properly.
And work with other countries. Share information.
Yes, engage in international research and actually tell the public what they find. She argues this is vital for science, for aviation safety, national security, and also just for rebuilding public trust.
Okay, so if we try to boil it all down, what are the main takeaways, the core conclusions Kean reaches in the book?
Well, first and foremost, her main conclusion is that UFOs, at least the ones in her best cases, are a real physical phenomenon.
Based on the witness credibility and the data.
Exactly. That's conclusion number one, solid physical reality.
But she stops short of saying what they are.
Correct. That's the second key point. While their reality is argued, what they are and where they're from remains unknown. That's the militant agnosticism again. Focus on the existence, not the origin. For now.
Okay. Real but unexplained origin. What else?
The third major conclusion is the need for serious, unbiased investigation. It's not just warranted, she argues, it's necessary.
Why necessary?
Because of those potential safety and security implications she raises. It's not just academic curiosity.
Right.
And finally, the book is really a call to action for transparency and engagement. She's urging everyone, scientists, officials, the media, the public, to drop the taboo, to actually look at the evidence openly and address this global mystery seriously.
So quite a journey through Leslie Kean's work. It's definitely compelling when you focus on those high credibility witnesses and the data points she brings up.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? The sheer weight of testimony from people you'd normally trust without question.
Yeah. And it leaves you with some pretty big questions. I mean, just think about it for a second. If these events she documents are real, if they truly represent technology or phenomena beyond our current grasp of physics, what does that even mean?
The implications are staggering, really.
Right. What does it mean for science?
Yeah.
For aviation?
Yeah.
Just our basic understanding of the world, the universe. It makes you really consider the weight of these credible people coming forward, often at personal risk.
And it makes you wonder about the reasons behind the official silence or dismissal over the years.
Definitely. Well, it's certainly food for thought. We'd encourage everyone listening to maybe check out Leslie Kean's book themselves, consider the evidence she presents, and just keep asking those questions.